Alright, you're looking for a new MMO to play. I know the feeling, I've had the same itch all too many times. I'm an MMO lover myself, and I've spent the last 20 years playing every good and bad MMO that I can get my hands on. In this video, I'm going to do my best to give you all the information you need in order to decide if Final Fantasy XIV is the right MMO for you. Final Fantasy XIV is unique because it has the most fleshed out solo experience of any MMO on the market, which means you can play through almost the entire game solo. This includes most of the dungeons and even many of the game's 8-man raids, known as trials. So if you want a really awesome new journey that you can look forward to, you know, that feeling that you get when you're logging into a massive new RPG for the first time and you're level 1 smacking a basic enemy with a stick, then Final Fantasy XIV is probably perfect for you. But don't let all the work they've put into the single player content fool you. If you want multiplayer content, they have a massive amount of dungeons, trials, and raids for you to jump into, which we'll talk more about later. Don't just take my word for it though. This game has had over 30 million players worldwide who have rated it very positively. And shout out to Square Enix for partnering with me on this video. Very few games have seen that level of success, let alone that many players. But that was then. What is the state of the game today? And should new players and veterans jump back in? Let's talk about it. Well, first of all, you've got nothing to lose because you can play up to level 70 for free, including the first 2 expansions. No cash, no credit card required at all. That is hundreds of hours of content for you to enjoy for completely free. That way, you'll know you love it before you spend a single dime. It's arguably the best free trial of any MMO on the market. And if you're thinking about trying it, I'll toss the link in the description below so that you can start the download while you're watching this video. Or perhaps you just want to see how people rated it on Steam recently. I'll also toss a link to my 2026 Final Fantasy XIV beginner guide in the description for your convenience as well. And if you're a veteran of the game, let new players know what your favorite class is or your favorite activity in Final Fantasy XIV. As I mentioned, it's kind of the perfect time to jump into Final Fantasy XIV. You've got the entire award-winning 10-year saga from A Realm Reborn through Endwalker that you can play through. So you don't have to worry about getting to the finale and then having to wait for the next expansion to drop to see how the story concludes. After you beat that, you can jump straight into the first expansion of the new saga, which is called Dawn Trail, and that's where all the veterans will be waiting for you. Dawn Trail has been one of the most beautiful expansions so far, but most importantly, this game has never had more content, it's never had more quality of life, and it's never had more cosmetic freedom than it does right now. If you're a longtime player, you'll be happy to know they recently made it so that now you can wear any job's cosmetics on your job. This was a long requested and highly welcome change in the community. First, I want to touch on the thing that most players are going to spend most of their time doing: solo content. When you start your journey in Final Fantasy XIV, you'll be able to choose between 10 different classes, or as this game calls them, jobs. You don't have to worry about picking the wrong one because you can level every job individually on the same character. So you don't have to stress, it's never too late to change your mind and pick a different job later on. Beyond that, while you play the game, you'll unlock access to another 20 plus jobs that you can play as. There is literally a job for everyone, whether you want to play as a black mage, an archer, a monk, or a dark knight. Whatever style you enjoy, this game has it. Final Fantasy XIV has a unique reputation of being an RPG first and an MMO second. In some MMOs, the story is an afterthought, and so it ends up being something you want to skip, because if the developer didn't care about the story, why should you? But in Final Fantasy XIV, the story is laid out with painstaking detail. It's the only MMO where I've experienced a cutscene for the story in the middle of a raid, and the reveal in that cutscene made my jaw drop. The dungeons and the raids are all in service to the story in this game. You're not always just fighting some random creature. Oftentimes you're fighting someone that used to be your friend, or someone that might soon be a friend. The character arcs and the plot twists keep you glued in. So it's the only MMO where I always tell people, don't skip the cutscenes, they're totally worth it. One of my favorite parts about Final Fantasy XIV is that you can level up every class, or job as Final Fantasy XIV calls them, on one character. This means if you ever want a change of pace, you can switch jobs and start leveling up your bard or your paladin without losing progress on all of that side content that you've been picking away at. Some of my favorite memories are being super low in a starting zone, using my first basic skill to level up. I love that feeling at the start of the journey where you go from having 1 skill to 2 skills, and then 3, and you can feel your character getting stronger and more interesting. The progression is real and tangible, and this part of Final Fantasy XIV is executed so well. If it's your first time playing, the main story quests will lead you through the entire game, making it one of the least confusing MMOs to play. If you're not sure what to do next, just click the MSQ button in the top left and it'll tell you where to go. But don't worry, there's a lot more to the game than that. There's a ton of horizontal and optional content that you can do in addition to that if you're hungry for more. That includes side quests, optional dungeons, optional trials, and raids, and so much more. One example of that optional content is the Gold Saucer, which is basically like a massive single player and multiplayer minigame area where you can earn awesome rewards including cosmetics and mounts. You can earn the Gold Saucer currency from jump puzzles, card games, gambling, and more. It's always a fun place to spend a few minutes to change up the pace, and it's great for a few laughs while you work your way to some cool cosmetics. And if you're a completionist, you're gonna love this game because you are so rewarded for everything that you try to complete. You can complete rare fates for some of the most epic mounts in the game, and you can go Aether Current hunting to unlock the ability for your mounts to fly in every zone. There's always something for you to do if you want to. But like I said, while the single player content is awesome, the multiplayer content is still some of the best of any MMO. Dungeons are fantastic. You run through them with 4 players, fighting mobs and bosses along the way. These dungeons can reward you with gear upgrades, pets, mounts, and cosmetics. The holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS keeps the teamwork meaningful as every player has an important role to fill as they work their way through the dungeon. The 8-man trials in Final Fantasy XIV are probably my favorite piece of content in any MMO ever. These are the MMO equivalent of all thriller and no filler. You don't have to battle your way through trash mobs. Instead, you and 7 other players spawn immediately in front of an epic boss. And these fights are what no other MMO has been able to replicate. They are a spectacle. You'll be fighting the boss, and not only will the boss transform during the fight, but so will the entire stage. They add to each boss fight a fantastic soundtrack that just keeps the blood flowing. You really feel like you're a part of something epic in a way that few other MMOs are able to deliver on. But if you're someone who loves the immensity of massive raids with loads of players, then you're gonna love Final Fantasy XIV's 24-man alliance raids. Here, you and 23 other players will fight your way through a massive raid, kill trash mobs, side bosses, and eventually the final boss in one massive fight where everyone has to work together. These typically go pretty smooth because there's usually enough veterans around to make sure all the mechanics are accounted for, which means you don't have to stress as a new player. If you die, no problem, one of the healers is gonna res you. In fact, that's an entire topic in itself. The community in Final Fantasy XIV. I have played with a lot of toxic players in a lot of MMOs, and it never ceases to amaze me how nice everyone in Final Fantasy is. Like, genuinely. It's in its own league when it comes to the community. It has a mentor system that rewards players for helping new players. You can ask them questions, and oftentimes they'll offer help without you even having to ask. The game actively bans people who are unnecessarily mean, which means it's one of the few games where veterans aren't trash talking the new players for their DPS or for their lack of mechanic knowledge during a dungeon or a raid. It kind of reminds me of MMO communities from 20 years ago, before people were glued to their DPS meter, before that was the only thing that mattered to them. And man, is that refreshing. The game also has PvP, but to be honest, I don't participate in it a whole lot. Still, it's definitely worth mentioning because a lot of people love it, and they've put a lot of work in to give you some really unique PvP experiences. Take, for example, Crystalline Conflict, which is a 5v5 mode that functions like a push the cart map, with both sides battling it out to try to push the crystal to their respective finish lines. Or if you prefer larger scale battles, you can jump into Frontline, which features 3 opposing teams of 24 players for a total of 72 players on the battlefield. So if you're looking for the type of massive scale battles that only MMOs can provide, Frontline is probably what you want to dive into. And since there's awesome rewards behind PvP, it's always active. Now, let's talk about combat, as this can be a make or break item for a lot of players. Final Fantasy XIV is a tab target MMO, which basically means you can turn your camera away from the enemy while casting abilities. That's essentially the primary difference between action and tab target MMOs, but it's a noteworthy one. At first, the combat in Final Fantasy XIV is slower, giving new players time to find their bearing. You'll start with one ability and slowly unlock more. There's a global cooldown of 2 seconds, which will be noticeable at the start, but as you play through the game, you'll unlock abilities that are not tied to the global cooldown system, allowing you to cast a lot more than just one ability every 2 seconds. On top of that, you'll be able to lower your GCD as you level up and get more gear, actions, and more. One of the things I love about the combat in this game is that each class feels different. My Black Mage, with its slow but incredibly powerful spells, feels completely different from my Dark Knight's tanky bruiser playstyle, which feels completely different from my Monk, which feels completely different from my Healer. And just as important, they've done a great job of giving abilities animations that make you feel like you're doing big things. And sometimes you are doing really big things. Let me introduce you to the Limit Break. This is an actual skill that my Black Mage can cast in the game, and it's just everything. No other ability ability in any MMO gives me this feeling right here. Movement on the battlefield is key, as Final Fantasy XIV boss fights tend to have a lot of mechanics that involve you knowing when an attack is coming your way. This is something else that can make that 2-second global cooldown disappear real fast as you're trying to fire off abilities while dodging incoming boss attacks. As I've touched on, the game does feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, which is an almost essential part of group content in an MMO for me. And the game does a fantastic job of letting each role live its fantasy. The tank can see and feel the pounding it's able to take as enemies beat on him. The healer can see the health bars bouncing around as it saves its teammate's life. And the DPS, yeah, they're popping out big damage. But honestly, everyone puts out solid damage in Final Fantasy XIV, even the tank and even the healer. If the tank dies, the group dies. So it's important that he's using his mitigation abilities to mitigate that incoming damage while putting out massive damage to keep aggro. If the healer dozes off, the party wipes. So it's important they're keeping those heals coming. Every role is essential, making every role fun to play. And I can't talk about Final Fantasy XIV without talking about the monetization. Of course, we talked about the fact that it's got the most generous free trial, letting you play the first 70 levels and the first 2 expansions for completely free. And because the free portion of the game is so massive, you'll be able to unlock awesome items and mounts like the one on screen right now. It's not like you have to wait until you get past the free part of the game. And that's part of what I love about this game. The fact that the best cosmetics and the best mounts are in the game where you can earn them, not in the cash shop. Now, none of the stuff that I've mentioned so far matters if nobody's playing this MMO. MMOs need lots of players in them, otherwise the game feels empty. Otherwise the dungeon and the raid and the trial queues take forever. And I'm happy to report that Final Fantasy XIV is one of the biggest MMOs in the world. This game always has thousands and thousands of players on at any given moment. And you can see that and feel that when you're running around the game. Whenever you're in town, there's players everywhere. Whenever you queue for a dungeon, it's never a long queue. Same for the trials and the alliance raids, and even PvP in this MMO has short queues, which is almost unheard of in MMOs these days. So it's safe to say that this MMO is still thriving, and it's just going to get bigger when the next expansion drops. Next, I just want to touch on character customization, because do you like when your character looks cool? Do you like when the coolest looking items in the game drop from bosses rather than from the cash shop? Like this mount right here that I earned. Well, if you like those things, then you're going to love the way Final Fantasy XIV handles cosmetics. The coolest things in the game are earned, not purchased, which means there's always something awesome for you to look forward to collecting. And when you do, it just feels good because now your character looks that much cooler. Cosmetic progression is one of the most important parts of any MMO, and it's one of the things that most new MMOs today forget to emphasize. It's pretty simple. It feels good to look awesome. And on this front, Final Fantasy XIV delivers. You can unlock more mounts than I can count, more cosmetics than I'll ever have time to unlock, as well as pets, housing items, and more. If you enjoy collecting mounts or cosmetics, I've got great news. There might not be another MMO that lets you earn as many awesome cosmetics as Final Fantasy XIV. This game is a collector's dream. There's always something to go kill or something to go farm that will give you an epic cosmetic. And if you're someone that's jumping into Final Fantasy XIV for the first time, or if you're someone that's coming back after a long break, I've got the perfect video for you. It's my complete beginner guide. This guide is a community favorite. It's gotten millions of views over the years, so be sure to check it out if you're looking to learn how to play the game, or if you're trying to remember how to play the game. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm a pretty big fan of Final Fantasy XIV. It's got arguably the best free trial on the market with 70 levels and the first 2 expansions playable for completely free. It lets you earn all of the coolest cosmetics rather than forcing you to buy them in the cash shop. It treats its community so well that it literally earns awards for it, and it's got best-in-class single player and multiplayer content. So if you haven't tried it, what's holding you back? I've got the link in the description. Go ahead and click it if you want to try the game out for yourself and play it for completely free for hundreds of hours. And let me know down in the comments below, what job do you want to play first? Or if you're a veteran, let the new players know what your favorite job is to play. Personally, my favorite is my Dark Knight because I love tanking in this game. It's a lot of fun. You get tank privilege, which is always awesome. And there's so many awesome skins for the massive 2-handed sword. If you don't know what tank privilege is, in Final Fantasy XIV, you can get away with messing up mechanics a lot more often on a tank than other characters because you've got that extra defensive HP. After that, I love my Black Mage because of the massive spells. They're just always a lot of fun to cast. But honestly, I haven't played a class or a job that I haven't enjoyed yet, so take that for what you will. Thanks so much for listening to this MMO Degenerate as I explain one of my favorite MMOs. Don't forget to watch my beginner guide linked in the description if you're a new or returning player that wants to learn how to play the game. Massive shout out to my channel members. Your support helps me make quality content and gives you access to a private Discord channel where you can always ask for my help with any game that I've played, and more. Link for that is in the description as well. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of the videos popping up on screen right now, and I hope to see you in the next one.